Notorious radio shock jock Howard Stern has officially endorsed Joe Biden, saying during his radio show that he's all in for Joe Biden. Now, he also said, you see the wall that's right next to you? I'll vote for the wall over a guy who tells me that I should pour Clorox into my mouth. Listen, I think we're in deep crap. I think we could have been ahead of this curve, meaning we could have, the Trump administration specifically, could have handled the response to COVID-19 much better. Of course, it's been a complete and utter disaster. Now, I bring this up because, look, to be quite honest with you, Howard Stern can go ahead and endorse whoever he wants to endorse. I really don't care, right? But there's been a lack of outrage in regard to this endorsement, and I feel like it's very different from the type of reaction from the media, from the pundit class, when Joe Rogan indicated that he was willing to vote for Bernie Sanders. When that semi-endorsement was made, there was all sorts of outrage because Rogan is supposed to be a boogeyman. He's supposed to be a bad, bad boy. He's very naughty. So we have to lash out against him, but more importantly, lash out against the Bernie campaign, which is exactly what happened. Just a few examples I'll sprinkle in for you guys. Joan Walsh, who works with CNN, said, sorry, Joe Rogan is also a Seth Rich truther. That cruelty and insanity is a deal breaker for me. Zerlina Maxwell, who also notoriously cannot stand Bernie Sanders, pretended like she was upset about this Rogan endorsement, saying, I do not believe that sexism, racism, and transphobia are disagreements. I think that's the disconnect and something you and others might want to marinate on respectfully, indicating that she feels that, you know, Rogan is a misogynist and all of these other words that she threw out there. And then finally, Sadie Doyle wrote at the time, if the people you don't like are also the people who substantially work to popularize fascist and red pill thinking in America, then that's not reaching across the aisle. That's reaching over to racism and giving it a high five.
Fascism.
Now, look, if these people who had a significant bias against Bernie Sanders genuinely feel this way about Joe Rogan, that's one thing. But if they felt this way about Joe Rogan, I find it curious that they don't have concerns about Howard Stern endorsing Joe Biden, because there are, I don't know, decades at this point of examples to share with you showing Howard Stern like leading by example in all of those terrible categories that were listed. And we have one example for you. This is from the mid 1990s. It's possibly triggering for some. This was a sketch that Howard Stern did where he's pretending to be Ted Danson in blackface. And he threw the N-word around quite a bit. So here's a little example of that video for you.
Okay, so there are two parts of the story that are equally important. Let's start with the hypocrisy of the mainstream and the establishment. I at this point, I have to confess that I loathe them. I find their hypocrisy vomitous. So Joe Rogan has said bad things. Yes, it's true. And when Bernie Sanders got his endorsement, they're like, oh my God. I mean, you saw that. The Zerlina Maxwell, oh my God, the racism is intolerable and the transphobia, blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you were consistent about it, then I wouldn't make fun of it. I'd say, yeah, I mean, I'm worried about I'm definitely worried about Joe's transphobia. I don't know why he does that. Okay, but then you turn around, and it wasn't just now. I remember when Hillary Clinton, at the same exact time, went on Howard Stern for 2.5 hours And I know Howard Stern. I know what he said. And they're like, oh, she's such a man of the people. She's such a great person for going on Howard Stern. Howard's so great. Shut up. Shut up, you liars. So now Howard Stern endorses Joe Biden. They're like, bravo. Has Zerlina Maxwell, Joan Walsh, any of them called for Joe Biden to return the endorsement? Nothing. Has anyone in the media talked about it? Nothing. Instead, they say, "Oh, Biden should go on Howard Stern. That's so populist. That's gonna be great. That's gonna be great." Your hypocrisy is vomitous. It's grotesque. I can't stand it anymore. So, bunch of liars. That's who they are. Understand it. Ignore everything they say. So now, let's talk about the substance of it. Second part of the story. Look, I'm biased in a couple of different ways here. And unlike the liars in the establishment, I tell you things as they actually are, and including my bias. I grew up listening to Howard Stern, and I know that he could be terrible in certain ways. Even when I was a kid, when he did the stuff with the little people, I was like, oh, man, he's making fun of them. It makes me super uncomfortable. I hate it, right? But when he did the news, he was brilliant. When he did interviews, he was brilliant. So I grew up watching him. I like the guy a lot, despite the fact that he has said horrific things like you just saw, right? And I just don't believe in cancel culture. I don't believe in it. So I just said it. In fact, cancel culture, I find you to be horribly judgmental, and that's a sin, and I know you get canceled for any sin. So ironically, you're now canceled. I just canceled cancel culture. And okay?
Can I jump in on that, Cenk? Don't lose your train of thought. But I just want to say, cancel culture discourages people from evolving, right? It discourages people from wanting to be better people. And we're humans, right? And we're all terrible in our own ways. And the whole point of living is to grow, is to learn from your mistakes. But when you tell someone after they've said something deeply offensive, possibly transphobic, whatever it is, that you're canceled, that it's over, that you don't deserve a career, you don't deserve any opportunity to be a better person, well, then they don't have an incentive to learn and be better people. And it just needlessly creates this divisive culture. Are some people so far gone that there's really no hope? I think that there might be a few examples, Donald Trump being one of them. I don't think that he could ever grow. I mean, he's already in his late 70s, and he's thrived off of his hatred. But there are a lot of people out there who have said things that are offensive, and they deserve an opportunity to grow and learn from it. That's all I'm saying.
And it depends on what your job is. Are you a talk show host? Are you a comic? Then it's a very, very, very different than if you're a judge. If you can't do nuance, I'm not interested in you. So I'm sorry. If you're a leftist who believes that everybody should be canceled over any transgression that you don't like, and you don't do nuance, then I think you're wrong. And I think that's really unsophisticated. So look, the reason why a lot of people like me didn't mind Howard Stern, despite his terrible failings, is because we had a sense that he was actually kidding. Yes, his job is to be an entertainer, and that he didn't mean it. Now, I know that a lot of people will not get the joke, that he's in on the joke, and that it affects people. So that's why it's a nuanced conversation, and it's an interesting conversation if you have intellectual curiosity. So for me, like, for example, whenever Robin in the news read a Muslim name, and at the time I'm Muslim, grew up Muslim, anytime Robin read a Muslim name in the context of any story, right? The winner of the Kentucky Derby owned by Muhammad El Arya, and he'd be like, guilty. And it was funny. It was funny because I didn't really think that he thought Muslims were guilty. It's a joke. It's a joke, okay? So, but one thing is clear. Whether it's Rogan's wrong comments, and they are wrong, or Howard Stern's, I'm not going to cancel them. I'm just not. And so if you want to say, oh, that's terrible, etc., okay, fine, we disagree. You want to cancel me? Have at it, Hoss. You'd be like the 1 millionth person in the world, okay? And people who cancel people over disagreements are unbearable. I'll just let you know that, okay? So here, I'll cancel you back. Actually, I won't. I'll have you on the air. We'll debate it. You'll cry, whatever, okay? But to me, the worst of the worst is the establishment that uses it cynically. They don't really believe in cancel culture. And otherwise, they'd all be canceled. Okay?
Yes.
They'd all be canceled for the stuff that they've done, right? But the minute they can use it to attack a progressive, all of a sudden they're like, "Yo, canceled, Joe Rogan's canceled, everybody's canceled." If Howard Stern had endorsed Bernie Sanders, I guarantee you he would have been canceled by the establishment. They all would have said, to Howard Stern, do you know how many times he said the N-word? Oh my God, I knew, that's it. Bernie Sanders and Howard Stern are canceled. And everybody watching this, whether you're right wing, left wing, or in the middle, you know that what I just said is true.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, look at how the Tara Reade sexual assault allegations have been handled by these very pundits who claim that they were angry about the Rogan endorsement because of Rogan's misogyny. What? At the same time, their misogynistic takes on a woman who has come forward with very credible sexual assault allegations, not a problem, right? Because when it's politically convenient to use disenfranchised groups of people for their own political benefit, that's cool. They'll do it, right? But you think they actually care about disenfranchised groups? If they actually cared, about doing something about the prevalence of sexual assault in this country, especially sexual assault that's committed by men or women in positions of power, then they wouldn't treat the Tara Reade story any differently.
Yeah.
I mean, Cenk, they went back 20 years and brought up your blogs, which I will admit were not cool. I didn't like them, right? You apologized for them and you've grown. That's the right thing to do. But really, they're gonna clutch their pearls over your old blog posts from 20, 25 years ago. And at the same time, trash and smear a woman who's come forward accusing Joe Biden of credibly accusing him of sexual assault. Get out of here. They don't care about women. They don't care about sexual assault. They don't care about any of it. And I think you're right to be cynical. Your cynical take is accurate here.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Look, so 20 years ago, I write things that were jokes, but are uncomfortable, right? I read them and I go, that's bad. I shouldn't have said that, even if it was a joke, and it was a joke. First of all, they don't even give that context. So when I said the genes of women are flawed because they don't have enough sex with me, that's an obvious joke. That's about me, not about women. But the New York Times and everybody else goes, no, Jake believes that the woman's genes are flawed. It doesn't matter that he said it 20 years ago. It doesn't matter that he said it as a joke. It doesn't matter he said it when he was a Republican and now he hates Republicans. No, none of that matters, and that's who he is, right? LA Times, CNN, NPR, every one of them, right? Because why? Why? Because they're so heartbroken over misogyny. Then Howard Stern, really? Have you ever seen, I mean, if you don't think jokes count, like that, you don't care that it's a joke, has anyone in the history of America been more misogynistic than Howard Stern? Anyone, period, anyone. If you think, hey, I don't care that it was a joke, well then yes, Howard Stern is the biggest misogynist in America, if that's what you believe. But when he endorses Joe Biden and has Hillary Clinton on, all of a sudden you're like, oh, Howard Stern, oh, I love Howard Stern. He's so cool. He's so cool. You guys are the worst. You're all unbelievable liars and hypocrites. And then what you've done to Tara Reade is some conservative wrote a thing saying that not one person has been consistent on Tara Reade. All the Republicans that said, you have to have overwhelming proof when it's Brett Kavanaugh, now turn around and believe Tara Reade 100% immediately. All the Democrats who said Brett Kavanaugh was the worst have turned around and said they don't believe Tara Reade, right? No, you're wrong, John Ziegler. There's one show that has always been consistent, and it's the Young Turks, because we actually believe in principles, policies. We believe in doing the right things for the right reasons. You should take Tara Reade seriously. You shouldn't cancel people over jokes, and you should do it in a way that is consistent. And yes, you do judge the totality of the person after giving the full context. That's the right thing to do. But the establishment wouldn't know the right thing to do if it hit them across the face, because they don't want to do the right thing. All they want is to maintain the status quo so they can keep their little club where they have all the power, money, and privilege. Keep it real.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.